It is what it is. This video's not gonna get any views anyway. Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Eric, and this is gonna be a on second thought for Eric, kind of a first thoughts for me, but this is an old movie, in other words, of Oldboy, the original one, not the remake. And like I said, this is my first time seeing it. It's its 20th anniversary, so it was in theaters here in Philly, so we decided to check it out. You've seen it one other time?
Yeah, about a year ago, yeah.
So so fairly recently, so you weren't really surprised by anything? You still remembered everything, I'm assuming?
Yeah, pretty clearly.
Since this is an on second thought, we're just gonna get into spoilers right away here. If you haven't seen it yet for whatever reason, like I hadn't, please check it out first. But yeah, we're gonna get into spoilers right away. We're not gonna be worried about that. Obviously, it is a very famous movie. It has a higher rating by both critics and audiences alike. You don't really need our opinion on whether or not it's good. We're just gonna be talking about it. So thanks for watching. If you're not gonna stick around, bye. All right, before you saw it, did you know anything about it?
No, I just heard it was really good. I wanted to check it out. I heard it was pretty messed up, and that always interests me, so I was looking for it. I couldn't find it, so I ended up watching the remake, which I didn't really, I wish I didn't. So
seeing that first is probably a bummer. Yeah,
there's a change. It changes things a little bit, but it's still very similar ending with the incest and all that type of stuff, but they change it a little bit.
Is it good, like action wise and acting and all of that, or no?
No, it's probably one of Spike Lee's, one of his worst movies. Yeah,
that's a shame.
It doesn't touch this one at all. Maybe like a 6, maybe a 5. Yeah, it doesn't touch it.
Oh, that's a good question. So what rating would you give this one? Because it's still fresh for me, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I rate it. But
I think the first time I was a little like, maybe there's some cultural things towards the end, like they're very big on honor and things like that. So he's like cutting out his tongue and the way he was acting, "I'll be your dog." I thought it was a little over the top the first time. Watching it again, it didn't stand out as much to me. I was like, okay, I can understand what
I think it was also a desperation move by him, because he was trying to preserve his daughter more so than himself in that moment. And so I think that was supposed to kind of be a turning point where he was doing something that wasn't selfish for like the first time in his life.
Yeah, true.
No, it's still kind of selfish, but yeah, so I didn't know a whole lot about it, at least not that I was aware of. I knew this ending. I didn't know it was to this movie. I had heard about this ending before because it's a very famous ending, but I didn't have that attached to Oldboy in my head. When I thought of Oldboy, what I had in my head was, you know, hyper violent action movie. That was in my head. And in reality, this movie has some violence, some action, but it's not an action movie.
No.
And it's certainly not a hyper violent action movie by my standards. Granted, this movie's 20 years old. Times have changed, but I kind of had something else in mind. And then what I got instead was something that I enjoyed more than that, which was much artsier, much more down my alley with like the thriller vibe to it. You know, you're kind of wondering what's going on. There's twists, there's turns. And even though I figured out a lot of individual pieces, I didn't know what the whole picture was until it was revealed. So I was happy with that, because right off the bat, he gets hypnotized, and so you go, so he's hypnotized the whole movie. You just, like, that felt pretty obvious to me, that what we were seeing wasn't actually really happening entirely, and it kind of explains why he would be good at fighting, because punching a wall for 15 years doesn't make you good at fighting. It doesn't. So you're just like, I don't completely buy that. And then he runs into this girl who's just like hopelessly in love with him for no reason. You're like, that doesn't make sense. And so then figuring out, he's been hypnotized, that kind of closes up those plot holes right away. So I was happy with how that got wrapped up. Also, you kind of get to a point in a scene where he's talking to his one friend, getting information on this girl at the school, and you kind of in that moment realize at least the friend isn't a good guy, and because he's like talking really bad about this girl, like slut shaming her and all this shit. And in that moment I was like, am I supposed to be rooting for these guys? And then once again at the end of the movie, by the end of the movie, you're like, no, I'm not. Good, okay, I can be happy with this then,
there are no good people in this movie.
Exactly. There is nobody to root for, although I guess you could argue his daughter. She didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, I guess her.
And the bad guys, not that he's any more bad than the main character, really. It's kind of a bit of both, but his sister as well didn't really do anything intentionally wrong. Obviously, there was the incest, but they were children. They made a mistake.
Right.
They didn't know what they were doing, I would presume.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, between the two main guys, neither of them are worth rooting for. And that's fine.
Right.
I've said in the past, I struggle with movies where there's no likable characters. And this movie is one of those. There are no likable characters, but it is so well made, so artistically directed. I love the cinematography, loved the editing choices. I mean, the most famous scene, I think, from it is the hallway action scene,
for sure.
which is this long one-shot, single-take shot. And it's kind of, if you haven't seen it, it's filmed like a side-scroller video game, where the camera's just moving with him back and forth as he's fighting these guys in a hallway. It's like the precursor to like the Daredevil hallway scene.
Yeah, he's almost like, very. I guess I never seen Daredevil, but I've seen like clips, and I know what you mean because they seen clips of that in the trailer, so I can picture what you're talking about. It kind of reminds me of like Stanley Kubrick did like a action scene, because he does a lot of side scrolls. Or Wes Anderson even maybe.
And it's not hyper stylized violence, which is what I was expecting. So for a minute there, I was a little disappointed, but then I was like, I kind of liked the laid back nature of it. When at our showing, there was like a little Q&A sort of thing, interview afterward, and the director admitted, I don't like filming action. And I was like, I can tell. Like, it wasn't stylized action. It was just kind of blunt. But it worked in how it was portrayed in this movie, and I enjoyed that because it's so rare that movies either hide their violence because they're kind of like afraid of their action sequences, and like in a Nolan movie, like the camera kind of is just avoiding and shaking, and you're like, I'm not entirely sure. Or it could be, something like Zack Snyder where it's just super slow-mo, all stylized and all crazy, and this was neither. It was just this practically steady camera. It was moving back and forth, but there was no shake involved at all. It's just on like a rail, I would assume, and just sliding back and forth. And I was just like, that's so unique. That's such a different way to film an action scene. And I think that happens a lot in film when somebody's not, passionate about a specific aspect of filmmaking, and then they're kind of forced into doing it. They always come up with a unique and different way to do it. Famously, in Mad Max, George Miller had his wife edit it because he's like, I don't want a guy who edits action movies to edit this. I want a woman to do it so it will feel different. And that's kind of how I felt about the action in this, was it just felt different.
Right. I like Sal. Especially in that scene at the end, the elevator door opens. There's like 4 or 5 more guys just sitting in the elevator. The comedy worked really well in this movie.
Oh, it's a hilarious movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy, especially for how dark it is.
In dark moments. Funny moments.
Yeah, legit. Like at the end when the reveal's going on, she's playing with the wings. Like, that was hysterical.
That made me laugh probably harder than any other moment in the movie, and it's the darkest, most twisted point of the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from the seriousness at all. It actually makes her a little more endearing. Like she's sitting there waiting for him. She's waiting, and
because she's still kind of a child. Like she lost those 15 years too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because she was hypnotized too. I wish in some way, I don't know how they would have done it. They mentioned when he was writing his journal he has a bad past. I wish they kind of touched on that a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would have brought it into the story to make it work and without extending it for no reason, the movie. But I would have liked to have known what exactly he did more in the past. I mean, obviously,
I think he's
spread
just,
the rumor,
he's a bully. He's just not a good person. You see he's a troublemaker. In every part of the flashback, he's doing something shitty,
Like the opening scene, he's even under the door.
That too, he's a jackass. So, I don't know. I don't think I needed that any more than it was told. I will say I would like to see it a second time because I wasted so much of the movie assuming that nothing that was happening was real, because I'm like, well, he's hypnotized, but still a lot of what was happening, like he actually was outside of the prison. I thought he never actually got out. That was my thought.
You were thinking it was all
and so I was just like, because he's about to escape. You see that they've got cameras watching him, so they know he was digging out that whole time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so they caught him right before he got out and hypnotized him. Next time we see him, he's outside. We didn't explain how that happened, so I'm assuming he didn't actually make it out, and that's not the case.
True.
So I would like to rewatch it, not wasting my time thinking about hypotheses that don't matter.
You mentioned the directing and the cinematography. That the second time especially, it really, because I could focus a little more on it because I knew the story. It really stuck out to me a lot more.
Oh, it's beautiful.
He's really good. I tried looking at his IMDb. I'm not familiar with him outside of this movie, and nothing seems on this level. Maybe I'm just wrong. I just skimmed over it. I don't know, but I don't know what movies he's done.
I believe this is the first movie I've seen by him as well.
Yeah.
I'm catching up a lot with foreign films recently. I'm still very behind.
Yeah, me too. It's the first Korean one I've ever seen.
Didn't you watch Parasite? You didn't watch Parasite?
I still haven't watched Parasite.
Oh my god, Parasite's brilliant.
I own it, but I still haven't watched it.
Yeah. I've watched a couple things by Bong Joon-ho, the Parasite guy, but I think those are probably the only Korean films I've seen.
No, I lied. I did see
Snowpiercer, didn't you?
Snowpiercer, yeah. But it felt such
but
like
it was
an
Americanized.
film. Yeah,
because there's like Chris Evans and
shit. Yeah, and it was in completely in English.
Yeah, that's his most American movie, I would assume. It's like saying, oh yeah, I like French movies, and then watching Eternal Sunshine. It's like, it is, but is it?
Right, it is. So yeah, that's why I wasn't thinking about that one when I said that, but
that's
it's the first like Korean subtitle filmed in his own country.
I think Parasite was the first Korean movie I've seen. I haven't seen a whole lot still. I need to work on that. Because, I mean, obviously we're seeing the best of the best, but they're great movies. They are.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't really prepared for how artsy it was. And then the scene that was just like, I just sat there going like, this is a Simon movie, was when she's talking about like the ants, and then there's a shot of her on the train with a giant like human-sized ant staring back at each other. I was just sitting there going like, this is a me movie. I'm enjoying this.
I knew when like the minute I saw that this was in theaters, like Simon's got to see this movie. I want to know what he thinks about it, and I want to see it again because I haven't seen it in a while. And yeah, I'm glad we made it out here.
Yeah, it was a good time. Like I said, there was also like a little mini Q&A afterward, and I was like laughing the whole time because he was being interviewed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who I know the name. I can't think of a single movie he's done. So he did direct Bronson. He also directed Drive. I haven't seen that yet. But so at least Bronson is a fantastic movie. So I knew the name. But anyway, he's asking Park Chan-wook, like giving him every opportunity ever to give really pretentious answers. Like he's asking him questions that are meant to be answered pretentiously, and he's just shooting them all down. I was like, I love this guy. He was like, obviously it's easy to go back and look on your movies and think of how great they are, but is there one thing you wish you could change if you could go back? And he's like, yeah, there was supposed to be a swimming pool in the scene, but we didn't have the budget for it. So every time I watch it scene, like, damn, wish there was a swimming pool. And I was like, I don't know if that's like relatable to other people, but as a filmmaker, I'm like, that's what I think about when I'm like, it's not like, oh yeah, I would rewrite the philosophy or change this. No, I just was like, we wanted to do that and we couldn't. So I'm mad about it.
I didn't have the money. I just didn't have the money.
That was just such a perfect answer. I love that so much. But yeah, just hearing his thoughts on the movie and, talking about, like I said, like with the action, like I don't like action, but kind of had to do it. I loved hearing his thoughts on it. He was very down to earth, really enjoyed. Also, he had like a little blurb before the movie started. I just immediately was like, I like this guy.
The part like, about the squid.
If you like octopus, maybe this isn't for you.
That is a disgusting scene, man. Oh, that's so good.
It's like, and there's nudity. Not in the way you're probably expecting. And I was like, what does that mean? Especially when the first nudity in the movie is just sex, and you're like, that is, how else would I expect this? And then, because I hadn't put, like I said, I knew the ending, but I didn't know the ending was for this movie. Because I was like, I'd heard the forced incest plot was a thing in a famous movie. I just didn't know it was this movie. So I've seen it now. I've seen it.
It's just, for me, it's a dark movie. Like, it's one of those movies that like I wanted to see again, and I'm glad I did. But it'll be probably a little bit before I see it again. Like it's dark. Like it's kind of like comparable how dark it is like to Requiem for a Dream. That's not a movie that you watch all the time. It's very good. Watch it here and there because it's excellent. But it's so dark. It weighs heavy on you, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like also in the same vein to me as Memento in a way,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of similar, themes here. If it's a revenge story that turns out that it's not what you think it is, and the guy seeking revenge is actually the bad guy in a lot of ways. Granted, in this case, they're both bad guys. Like in Memento, somebody's kind of innocent. Some people are kind of. I guess everybody in that movie's a bad guy too.
Yeah.
But it's just like you kind of at the end, you're kind of just a little defeated. You're like, man, I don't feel good about this. Like I don't like anybody. I just didn't want to root for anybody. So I get that you wouldn't want to watch it right away again, because it's definitely a little bit soul crushing and defeating in a little bit of ways. But like I said, it was masterfully made.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, it's not the movie I typically like, and I don't mean like the thriller aspect, because I do love that, the plot twist, love stuff like that. But I don't like revenge movies because I find them boring typically,
and they're similar, they're very samey. Yeah.
And I don't like I said, movies that don't have likable characters.
Yeah.
Those are my two things, and movies to overcome those have to be really good, and this was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm shocked that I'm sitting here right now going, I want to watch that again. Not right now, but at some point I want to watch that again. I want to buy it. I want to talk about it, which to me shows like it was really good then, because it's not my thing. So therefore it's just that good.
Yeah, that just goes to show the director's. He knows what he's doing. The minute I saw that it was available, I was like, Simon's got to see it. If he doesn't like it, he's going to come out respecting the direction of this guy, because I knew that the art style was up your alley. I know it completely. So I was like, you have to see this movie. But I wasn't sure how you would feel towards the end, because a lot of the complaints that people have made that I've heard about it. Watching it a second time, I'm like, no, those complaints don't make sense, because a lot of times I hear the complaint that like it's a petty reason to do this whole thing too.
No, it's not. It's not obviously unreasonable to go that far with it, but it's also, it makes sense as far as motivation why somebody would.
Yeah, because it wasn't just like, like he was there. He's watched his sister die. He even, I guess they were clearing up that he didn't kill her. She was killing herself. He was trying to save her maybe, but he did let her go.
It doesn't entirely make that clear though, because we don't know how she got into that position she was in.
True. But I like the juxtaposition with the beginning scene where the main character is holding that guy who's trying to kill himself. And then I love, like, it didn't click with me this time until he said it in the movie a bunch of times, and that made sense. Rock and sand, either way you sink the same. Like, I didn't get that, but now, like, I'm thinking that's exactly, because even if it is petty and he did something stupid like spread a rumor, like, you're still going down for the same reason, whether it was a big horrible thing you did to me or this. It's just, you're gonna sink the same. It all sinks to the bottom, and that really stuck out to me. And then the line that they kept showing was, if you laugh, the world laughs with you. If you weep, you weep alone. That made a lot more sense this time, watching it again, seeing it, and like, especially when he would read it, and then didn't he like smile at one point and start laughing after he read it, after he was out? Yeah, like that's I like that little callback. But the guy with the dog at the end, he walks out of the building, he just falls. That's
I definitely want to watch it again, because there's some things that I'm sure I still haven't fully grasped it. Like, I get the basics of it, but there's still more there, like you were talking about. Like, so what does that line mean to you then, with when you laugh, everyone laughs with you, and when you cry alone? Like, I felt like I kind of understood it, but you're saying you grasped it more in a second viewing?
So I feel like the first time I don't think I understood it, like, at all. But this time what I'm thinking is he, because he does at times, like, he laughs, like when the guy's about to pull out his teeth, he, like, something snaps in him that he realizes that, like, if he sits here and he weeps about this and he's upset and he's screaming, it's actually going, like, he's going to do it alone, the guy's just going to laugh at him. But if he laughs at it, everyone's lost, they're confused, it feels like in his world everyone is laughing with him, where he could have just been, like, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but
I think so, because that's basically how I took it too. It was like, when you let events in life get you down, you just feel you're alone.
You're the only one.
You're the victim. You just feel bad. But when you choose to just laugh at it, like, even when at the end he's crying and holding onto the guy's ankle and cutting his tongue out, the other guy is just laughing at him, because it's like, at that point, when you choose to laugh at the terrible things in life, you're untouchable.
Yeah,
because nothing can get to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at when he was like about to pull his teeth. It's something like changed him. He's like, no, this is funny. Like, screw that. I've been through worse. Like, I can get through this. I'm going to laugh at this and laugh in his face.
I loved how the bad guy, and I keep referring to them as the bad guy and the good guy, even though neither are either really, but it's just easy for explaining purposes.
Absolutely.
How he took away, not only did he defeat the good guy, but then he took away his satisfaction of killing him by killing himself.
Yes.
I thought that was fantastic because, one, he also gave him the illusion of him getting away, and two, then killed himself because whether or not he discovers if the bad guy actually died, one possible reality is he spends the rest of his life trying to still catch him and get revenge, not knowing that he's actually dead, or two, he finds out he's dead and can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and he's just
and either way, the bad guy wins. And I was like, that is so
cool. That's really cool, especially because that was the whole thing. Is like you'll never know why, and that was cool. And I also like that they didn't hide the bad guy from the camera very long. Like you saw him right away. He interacted with him right away, so it wasn't like this guy that was mysterious to an extent, or imposing
in any way. He's not scary.
No,
he's not cool.
Yeah,
like
he's
that
not
was
even creepy. Like he's just
when you first see him, it's kind of disappointing actually, because like even in the scene that it's like, I guess it's supposed to be kind of badass or whatever, where it's like, you could kill me, but I mean then you never find out. Like that on paper is like a really badass thing for a villain to do, and it's just totally, for me, it was just totally underwhelming. I'm like, but this guy's not cool. Like, I would just kill him. Like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
But then you kind of like, it goes along and it kind of fits where it's just like, he is just a dude. And that's not a bad thing.
Right. Well, also he is just a dude and a human who is reacting to something that has happened to him in an extreme way, but as humans tend to do, like react over the top.
And he is in a way sympathetic, just as sympathetic as the main character is, where you actually do get where he's coming from. Granted, obviously you don't agree with him and don't wish what he did upon anybody, but you're like, but I get it though.
Yeah. Like, and I just, as you were saying, I just had the thought, like, so she doesn't, assumingly she doesn't find out, because I don't think they hinted that she found out. He called to tell him to keep the box closed, which again, he sympathized a little bit with him.
He had mercy to an extent.
Exactly. But they both got what they had coming to them.
Yeah.
Like both of the bag, but she was freed from that.
Yeah.
Like she didn't find out about that.
Yeah.
I just remember the first time I saw that twist, because I didn't know anything about the twist, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember, I think back when it came out, or maybe it was after that, because I would have been pretty young when it came out, but I just remember people talking about it. Like it was a topic of conversation. Like people were like disgusted and offended, and I'm like, yeah, it's been 20 years since it came out, so I know people's standards have changed. But watching it, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like why get offended at something that is, it's not supposed to be good,
right?
You know, it's not supposed to be nice.
Yeah. Like, well, like the guy interviewing the director said, you know, this was his first mainstream success, and he really pushed what mainstream audience would accept. With that type of thing. That is, in my opinion, something you would get more in an indie film. Than a mainstream movie, and that's awesome.
And in a foreign film, you're not gonna get something like that really in American movies.
No, that's
at least not back then. Maybe more so now.
Yeah,
but like back then, now. Like,
it's a movie. You know, it's a movie that pushes the envelope as to what is acceptable. It's beautifully directed, well acted. I thought it was fine in the acting. The acting was good. I
don't think there's anything left to add. It's just, I mean, like I said, not that we added anything to the discourse other than we agree.
Yeah,
it's good.
Good foreign
film. But I'm glad that it's getting celebrated for its 20th anniversary. I'm sure even more so than now. Back when it came out, it had people just gasping like that. It's such a different kind of movie. It took such dramatic turns to a otherwise kind of straightforward plot of a, revenge story, and it just it's very unique. Even having heard the ending and seeing it happen, like, because I mean, I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm lying, but like I feel like right before they said the twist, I was like, oh, this is that movie.
Oh, right.
And so like even then that happening, I wasn't like, come on, really? I was just like, oh, okay, cool. good. Like, I mean, obviously not incest is good, but like, I just like that's a really interesting concept, and you know, I understand why it has the negative reaction among a lot of people, but it is because it's powerful and it's well written. So yeah, we're done. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. Thanks, guys. Bye. I am going to add too, because I should have said this. My favorite shot in the whole movie was that flashback you were talking about, where he's dropping his sister, and it's just a close up of his hand, and then the hand goes into the trigger pose, and then clicks, and then it's him having shot himself in the elevator. That is cinema. That was beautiful. Yeah, love that shot. Anyway, okay, we're done. Bye.